This is a short summary of the toolkit. So the toolkit is something that is very much like the well methodology. It's taking a lot of the well components. It has 7 steps. There's also an introduction at the beginning. So it's a 7-step process. You do your farm analysis, your household analysis, your market analysis, your market mapping, which many of you are familiar with, or at least the visual of. E is, I can't read that. Anyway, it's basically doing your decide, design, and deliver. So that you make sure that you've done your homework when you pull it together. And then this is your design, which is you write up a GEM description document, which is to say, what is your plan for basically the next 4 or 5 years? And based on that, you would start writing up proposals to submit to donors. So, by the way, it's not something you have to do by yourself. And it's not to say that you haven't done a lot of this work already, but the toolkit can help you basically tick a lot of the boxes of things you have done, but also consider the components that you haven't yet done. So I'm going to talk about two of these steps, which are more interesting given the context of discussions going on here. Yep. So the household analysis, based on the learnings that we had both from an event last year, is to try and understand better that time poverty. So to really have a tool that assesses what are the responsibilities of women within the households in the care context, as opposed to what they could do in an economic context. Doing a proper analysis, and this is one point that I highlighted yesterday, of which agricultural products are most suitable to serve women's needs, given their constraints. Gender-based violence is something that we're well aware of, and we're looking to further develop with value for women's support. And a rapid care analysis is also in development. This is something that Thalia Kidder is developing, and it's something that should be rolled out in the next 2 to 3 months. And all these things we're looking to make sure that they get referred to within the step B, so that you know exactly where to find them. The other one is step D. And this is your market map, which I think some of you are familiar with. Can you go ahead? So, I think some of you have seen this type of template before. The only difference is that we're adding on this farm system and household system, and you saw the referral to that in step A and B. And it's just to make extremely clear and visually very obvious that, and I think this speaks to your experience, is that whatever might happen in this broader market system, policies that exist in the disenabling and enabling environment, services that exist in the service sector, those have an impact at the farm level because of lack of access to technical equipment, because of lack of access to needed chemicals or agricultural products, such as quality seeds, because of lack of access to knowledge and capacity, which helps households to think through about what type of products they would like to choose. So this is simply making clear and emphasizing that we are working at 3 levels, and we have to work at those 3 levels: the household system, the farm system, and the broader market system. And this map just helps. It's very simple in the sense that it's there just to try and make very visually clear how these various themes connect together, of climate change, of market systems, and of power relations. So that when you use this map as a template, and it's literally like this, we've done this with other countries, you just get a big map and you start identifying, okay, who are the producer that you're working with, who's the enterprise, who's the trader, who's the processor, how many women are included in each of those steps, what's the value added for those women in each of those steps, who are the actors that we've identified from these various categories. And by the way, you don't have to identify everybody from each of these categories, it's all the possible ones. But you take the next step. So why am I emphasizing this, and why have I pulled up this map? Is because a lot of the work we've been doing, and this varies around the world, but the trend is that we're very comfortable working in this area. We're very comfortable working with producers, with some of the enterprises, with identifying some of the service providers. Some of the service providers are here in the room. So what we're not as comfortable with, One more time. Is working in this area, further up the value chain. So what's the demand from a consumer? What actually do people want to and are prepared to pay for? Who are the retailers? Who are the exporters? Who are the processors? Can we engage in conversations with them? How open are they to speaking to us? And how open are they, and how interested they are to speak directly with rural communities? Next. And we're certainly not as comfortable with working in that broader analysis where we start to say, how do all these things connect? And the way to start by doing that is simply asking questions. What are the demand trends for product services that women can provide? Will repeated floods and long droughts impact on gender roles? So that came up a lot yesterday as well, recognizing that in any type of crisis situation, women often get the brunt of the problems more so than men. Is weather information available and accessible? A lot of this information is available on websites. There are research institutes that do this type of stuff, but we need to be able to take that information and put it into our program design. One more time. Could government finance for mitigation? Could government finance for mitigation unbalance the market? Consider about what the impacts could be, the unforeseen impacts, and maybe engage with the government or ministries to try and so that we can expose to them what our goals are with this program work and how it's serving the communities in specific municipalities. Can you go back? So there are a lot more questions that you can put on here, but this is basically the grounding for your analysis, that you can ask questions around this map, and you could do this within, to some degree with yourself, but also with the community and with your partners as well. So I'm just going to give you two case studies of why we're actually doing this type of thing, and what's the experience that we're building on. I specifically didn't choose any from Latin America because those are things I think that some of you can speak to more given the context of this discussion. So we've been working in the Philippines with a product called moringa. It's a type of leaf that you can be used for various purposes, including for medicinal purposes. It's a commonly grown product and it has various good commercial opportunities. So it was identified in a type of analysis, and it was picked as a product. But I think I mentioned this yesterday as well, is that there was further analysis done with a gender market map to say that the tissue-cultured seedling nursery, so just how to produce the seeds, and the leaf itself would be the two best components to try and work on specifically, because that's something that women's groups could be working on in an area called Mindanao. It's one of the islands in the Philippines. And that type of production would be most beneficial for them given various social and cultural constraints. But what happened, this actually started developing quite well. The communities were plugged in, the business case was there, a contract had been established with one company. And then it was flooded because the Philippines often gets floods. And that analysis, I think that had been included, but it hadn't been thoroughly assessed and integrated into the program design. So in other words, a lot of the flooding, which you can see here, caused the massive damage and disruption to production. And as a result, Secura, which is the company they were working with, broke open the contract because they said, you're not actually supplying what you said you would. So there was a bunch of responses and analysis that was done. So in other words, the climate change adaptation in this case just led to, let's just plant it on a higher ground. It was as simple as that to try and avoid or mitigate any future flooding. But they also thought more broadly by doing that market map analysis about, this is a local intervention as well, new design for nursery sheds, but lobbied the local government for funds for recovery for women, as well as policy work on microinsurance for women. So recognizing that these are kind of resilience components, right? This is how you can help to help them bounce back after an impact or a crisis takes place, so they can keep on doing what they were doing beforehand without taking years to build it up again. So, in short, the program has worked, and the lesson learned has been, following the crisis, that the climate change analysis was done. But if it had been done at the beginning, then this could have been avoided in the first place, or the cost would have been far less by responding or following the flooding. So that's a very concrete reason of why you should do your homework on the climate change adaptation component right at the beginning of the program design. Or in the case of a lot of you, you have ongoing programs, but don't wait for a crisis to happen and then do the analysis of how to respond to that. Do it beforehand. The same in Ethiopian coffee. This is another example of a direct and indirect type of intervention. We've been working there for a couple of years. It's to improve coffee production and quality, to increase income for smallholder cooperative members. Now, one of the problems was that the co-op law there, nationally in Ethiopia, was that only one member of a household could become a member of the cooperative. And usually that was the man, as in almost all the cases. So Oxfam, together with a couple of partners, helped change that law so that more than one member of the household could become a member of the cooperative. And on top of that, they also included that it would be cheaper for women to join. It would cost them 40 birr versus men 60 birr, giving women a greater incentive to join. So that had an impact on the program because it was working directly. This is an EDP program. No, sorry, EDP is on honey, but it was a complementary program. It helped improve the women within the program specifically, but more broadly it helps other women smallholder farmers. In other words, it improved the operating environment. Now, I showed this to Fabian a few days ago. He asked a couple of good questions, which is, what were the repercussions of this? I haven't heard of any specific violence taking place, but I'm happy to follow up on that to understand better what it is if you really want to know, and I can contact the Ethiopia team to understand what type of repercussions there might have been following this change of the law. But we actually had 2 or 3 months ago a consultant go out to do an independent analysis, and he was really impressed by this component as well, and he'd interviewed a number of the women within these co-ops, and his report didn't mention anything of any specific repercussions that had taken place. But I could double check if you really want me to. So that's basically it.